What has been your experience as a woman in STEM?
As a white woman, huge privilege to receive even the level that I do receive. A lot of people have it a lot worse and advocate for those people. But it is largely the expectation that you have to overperform. You have to be the best. You have to work hard. You have to blah, 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 because how else would you have gotten here as a woman if you're not the best in your field? Mediocrity can't be the standard. So I definitely don't say that out of bitterness. I think it is well worth it to be a woman in a male-dominated field. But you really have to put a lot of effort into self-care, self-esteem, and keeping grounded, and just playing the room well. That sounds horrible, but a lot of it is reading and playing the room.
Yeah, because I mean, that exhaustion, you're right. Like, I always felt in my academic journey that any failure I made was a representation of my entire gender. And that if I did anything wrong, if I had any slip up, it was like, oh, well, what a waste of time letting, why did we let her on the field kind of thing. What is your advice for kids who want to get into STEM fields, particularly in your field of speciality, which is climate change solutions?
This is my favorite question. So don't focus on your grades. Focus on developing the good habits and the grades will follow. That's the biggest slip up I think I made. I was like chronically anxious about getting the top grades and being perfect. No, like practice self-care, set aside time every day to do your work, eat, sleep, prioritize your life. And if your teachers don't cooperate, like that's on them. It's not your fault.
100%. 100%. I have no time for educators who do not prioritize the well-being and the comprehensive understanding of their students. I don't understand why they enter the field. Whoa, anyway.
Yeah. It's like that's one thing if I could tell my younger self to do. The grades will follow if you have good habits. And then secondly, you got to learn how to teach yourself. The excuse that you have a bad teacher is like just not going to cut it because like engineering,
once you're at your
upper level STEM fields. Yeah, you like it. That, I mean, the caveat to that is if a teacher is being discriminatory or rude, or if they're not taking your entire person into account of your work, that's separate. That a bad teacher meaning, oh, well, they didn't teach it the way I like to hear it, or they didn't teach it well, or they're not outlining the class. Got to fix the blame and take that as an opportunity to teach yourself. The quicker you learn how to teach yourself how to do stuff, the more successful you're going to be, largely speaking.
In general, like in life in general, as well as in sciences. That's a good overall theme for solving this problem, is it's not about blame, it's about just finding things that work and adjusting to the learning curve, and doing something is better than nothing. Nothing is not really an option for the well-being of our planet.
Yes. According to the NAACP, the number one factor that influences someone's likelihood to live next to a toxic facility is race. So America has a very long history of treating... Sorry?
Canada as well.
Yeah. I know this much about Canada, but I believe you. But we have a really, really gross history of treating Black and Indigenous people really, really poorly. And that includes redlining and placing families next to toxic waste sites or EPA sanctioned cleanup sites. Socioeconomically, people of lower socioeconomic status have less access to services. You're less likely to be secure in a place to live immediately following a disaster. Speaking in terms of developing countries, women are often caretakers or responsible for things like getting water and maintaining the home and et cetera. And there's actually a BBC article that was really interesting on this, that if there's a drought, women will have to walk farther for water. California, we see this a lot because California is kind of a unique place in the US because we see a lot of climate change effects before a lot of other parts of the country do. We have really bad air quality here.
Interesting.
We have a lot of smog. We have a lot of particulate. Air quality is related to climate change, but that's a problem that a lot of people won't feel immediately. So we have to fight that every day.
As much as addressing it is going to be expensive and difficult, people are dying of respiratory diseases at the highest ever recorded rates. So.
Right. Exactly. Yes. Oh, and make individually good choices.
Yes.
Too.
Yeah.
That's another one.
Yeah. The impacts of one individual are never going to be on the scale of the impacts of like the Koch brothers and all of their industries, but definitely live in a way that matches your values.
Oh my goodness.
And yeah, for sure. Definitely. And listen to the teachings of indigenous people, because their lifestyles will save us all. Yeah. Because they are historically and with the evidence the most sustainable.
This is another favorite of mine, which is why I want to jump on, and I'll get off my soapbox eventually.
Never. Don't ever get off your soapbox.
But how do we become energy conscious people? How do we make sustainable choices as an individual? That's a question that I love. So here's my answer.
Okay.
I think we have to focus on first, like structurally, right? We have to stay educated, and we have to educate people. There's a quote that I like that it says, sustainability is blackness and sustainability is indigenous. But today, sustainability has become a trendy buzzword to make people feel better about themselves. Propaganda, if you will. So here's a shameless plug to look to the practices of indigenous people and Black people, people of color in general.
Yeah.
Like colonization is a nasty animal.
Yeah, and West is best bias is exactly that, a bias. We are wrong. We have historically been wrong.
Right.
Let's listen to people who have historically been right.
Right. And if you don't know the answer to something, ask somebody from a member of that group, and try and reduce the Western consumer-based mindset. Like that includes like single-use plastics and fast fashion and having just like wasteful energy tech. Like that's a very Western thing.
Yeah.
So like if we cut down our grocery bags, if we cut down the amount of times we eat to-go food, like takeaway food, that's just like disposable stuff. It's harder now with COVID, but if you try and sit down and eat a meal, that's more sustainable. Or try to wear your clothes longer and not buy as many clothing new from the rack or from places.
Obviously, this is also impacted by privilege. Like if if you're somebody with a family who's struggling to clothe your growing children, there's certain things that obviously don't apply to you. But I think this is another way where we need policy that just makes it easier. First of all, that just prevents poverty, because it doesn't need to exist. But second of all, that makes it a lot easier for people to be sustainable. But yeah, definitely taking the individual responsibility for yourself to be sustainable, but also taking the individual responsibility to be somebody who is informed and votes well and make sure that policy goes through so that those larger scale changes can happen. Register early and make sure that your postal vote is still actually counting, because there's lots of tampering with that. Oh my God.
Yes.
And for those of you, like the vast majority of my audience on TikTok at least, are Gen Z, and you guys are the future. You are going to vote these dinosaurs out. I mean, eventually they will die, but before then, like, you guys are going to be the ones that are going to be writing the policy that is going to save us, and I don't want to scare you or put too much pressure on you, but I do a little bit.
And definitely don't be too hard on yourself.
Yeah.
There's so much to be anxious about. And like, if you use a disposable straw, like, it's not the end of the world. Especially during COVID.
For sure.
Just being conscious.
Just be conscientious and don't be afraid to be wrong, and don't be afraid to adapt. And we are going to get through this. Like, we think of the marvel of human accomplishment. We're talking to each other from opposite sides of the planet. You're telling me we can do that, but we can't fix climate change? I say bullshit. I have more confidence in us as a species.
And part of being a good student, like being a good student and being a good teacher is not having the answers. It's just kind of knowing where to look. So 100%. As long as people get that, like, you know, reach out and ask people. I definitely don't have all the answers. Shoot, like the people that teach me are so smart, and even they say they don't even have all the answers. So
yeah, because no one does.
We're all in it together.
Yes.
Right.
We are
Humble
all
yourself
together. I say it all the time. I'm like, we are all trapped here on this planet, and either you can every day work towards making the world a better place, more enjoyable place, working together, be cohesive, be kind, or you can do the opposite of that. What a waste of my energy to make life harder for other people when I can make life more enjoyable for other people, and therefore myself, by proxy of that attitude.
Absolutely. And prop other people up. If you see other people doing stuff that you think is important, like,
give them that acknowledgement.
You know, drop them a line and be like, let me support you. So
100%.
Yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for your time today, Emily. I'm so sorry about the internet cutting out. I did not anticipate that was going to be as bad as it was. For those of you who aren't aware, Emily is a supporter on my Patreon, so as a shameless self-plug, please check out my Patreon, because the more resources I have, the cooler kinds of stuff I can make, and the more wonderful people I can interview, and we can all benefit from their levels of expertise. So thank you so much for giving me your time today to answer our questions. I hope you stay safe and well. And if there's any parting lines you'd like to leave us with?
Oh boy. Let's be better than the generation before.
Yes.